I was watching that new Snow White movie starring Samuel L. Jackson for the second time, and it reminded me what Miguel Rojas and those 7 CGI dwarves have in common. They're both taking jobs away from people who are better suited for the role. Miguel Rojas is a career below average hitter who, to give him credit, does provide value from the defensive side of things, but his bat has never been his strength. He actually was pretty good last year as the Dodgers somehow make anyone and everyone better, but he's not someone you should ever count on to be big for you offensively. Jazz Chisholm Jr. is more like that. Not that he's some mega threat offensively, but he's good, solid. Someone who I think has yet to reach his potential, while we know what Rojas is at this point, with him being 36 years old. They're two pretty different players playing across the country from each other who came from the same place, though, Miami. Well, they weren't born and raised there, but they played there together, and they don't like each other now. They didn't like each other then, and I'd say it's a mix of both of them being in the wrong, although one of them is a bit more in the wrong, I think. Really quick, as always, if you're part of the 51% of viewers not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button if you enjoy the videos, as the way I see Jazz Chisholm is someone who never disrespects the opposition, really, in any way. Anything flashy he does on the field isn't directed towards specific players. It's just him having fun playing a game. That's really his whole MO. He's not trying to show anyone up, at least not originally, until someone does something to him. And Jazz has always been this way. He likes to express his personality, and when coming up on the Marlins, he had a hard time doing that because of some of the other veterans on the team, most notably Miguel Rojas. For whatever reason, Miguel Rojas despised how Jazz was. Well, we know the reason, but Jazz talked about this a lot on a podcast a year ago, how miserable he was in Miami, basically in the sense that he didn't really have many friends on the team. He found himself watching anime in his room and really never hanging out with any of the guys, stuff like that. It just wasn't a great culture there, which can't be much of a shock to anybody. Saying that the Marlins didn't have good culture is like getting news ISIS just killed someone. Like, wow, no way, OMG. Anyway, Jazz revealed a lot of crap that happened when he was with the Marlins. He mentioned a time when Jesus Sanchez, a rookie in 2021, hit a home run, did the Soto shuffle next time he was at the plate before being reprimanded by veterans. Watch.
I watched someone get called up to the big leagues. Supposed to be like top 3 prospects on our team, right? First or second at bat hits a homer, right? His next at bat, he goes and does the Juan Soto shuffle, right? Like, he's a kid. His favorite player is Juan Soto. He just got to the big leagues. Tell me why he comes in the dugout after, he walks, get around the base, comes in the dugout after these vets sit on the side of him and start yelling at him saying, bro, you're not Juan Soto, bro. You shouldn't be doing that. Juan Soto is an all-star, da-da-da-da. You can't be doing that. Bro, what do you mean? He's having fun, bro. We playing a fucking kids game.
I mean, there's a time he literally did a Soto shuffle and then hit a home run on the next pitch. Yet you're mad that he did the shuffle? It makes no sense. And Rojas even addressed this, saying it wasn't him but another veteran, which I think a lot of this goes into the he said, she said stuff. Like, we don't know all the exact details that happened because we weren't there, only they do. But the most clear thing is the disconnect between the older guys and the younger guys, and that Rojas was definitely one of the older guys who didn't like how Jazz was, even if he wasn't the guy who talked to Sanchez that time about the Soto thing. In 2022, the Marlins had a team meeting before one of the games, a meeting that was so that the manager at the time, Don Mattingly, literally said 2 hours before the game that he wouldn't be surprised if the team came out flat that night. Well, apparently that meeting was all about Jazz, just several players hounding on him, voicing their thoughts on stuff like work ethic, what he was wearing to the field, just stupid stuff. And what makes this worse is the whole reason this meeting even happened was because the players were talking about Jazz behind his back. They were complaining about the way he was behind his back, and Mattingly wanted them to talk it out face to face. So the very players who were upset couldn't even say it to his face originally. Tells you everything you need to know. But Miguel Rojas would tell Jazz to his face stuff like, bro, you're the best on the team. Keep on going, bro. You're going to be great. You're going to lead us one day. Only to then 2 seconds later be in the manager's office, Don Mattingly's office, complaining about Jazz. And Mattingly would tell Jazz, yeah, this is what he's saying about you. So this is the kind of stuff that led to this meeting. That led to Mattingly being like, all right, we got to settle this face to face. All this talking behind his back. Like, what is this, Mean Girls? That's literally what this is. It's incredible how soft these people can be. It's pathetic and just full of irony. A bunch of shitty older players on a bad team criticizing the best player on the team, not because anything he was doing on the field. They're telling him they didn't like what he wore to the field in a meeting they didn't even put together because they weren't man enough to say it to his face until the manager said that they had to. And to make things even more ironic, Jazz went out and hit 2 home runs that night, one of them being a grand slam. Yeah, I'm beginning to think what a player wears to the field doesn't matter. Maybe you should shut up and let him do what he wants, considering he's playing the best on the field and not hurting anything other than your feelings. So Miguel Rojas was one of these veterans who just couldn't stand Jazz. When Jazz first arrived arrived to the big leagues in 2020 with the Marlins, he had customized cleats of his. He makes his own art. It's pretty cool. But Rojas looked at this as a rookie going against the unwritten rules of the game, so he cut up and poured milk in some of them. It was never revealed as Rojas at first by name, although a lot of people figured it was. In a new article based off a brand new interview with an updated version of Jazz, who's now a Yankee, revealed that it was Rojas. We already knew that, but it's confirmed now. Apparently, Jazz didn't even confront Rojas after he did this. He said he just threw Rojas' stuff in the trash, which all goes back to the overall issues within the Marlins just in general. I mean, something that crazy happens, you address it then and figure it out, but it never was. Jazz and Rojas just continue to have animosity toward one another over the next couple of years, and look, Jazz does deserve some of the blame, where you can see a little bit of why some players wouldn't like the way he went about things. He admitted this. He told a story about how Rojas didn't wake him up before another team meeting an hour before a game. He blamed Rojas. Jazz's point was how Rojas is the team captain, yet he didn't wake him up, which of course is immature. It shouldn't be anyone's job at the end of the day to get up than yourself. But I think, again, this goes into the whole vibe of the team, of just how the Marlins were at the time. If Jazz was somewhere he loved, I don't think he'd have been sleeping an hour before the game. And it seems like it's the opposite where he's at now with the Yankees. He feels like he could be more of himself, and he loves it there. But Jazz did feel a little bit more like himself at the end of his time in Miami. And why? Well, Rojas was traded away to the Dodgers before 2023, and the Marlins also got a new manager, Skip Schumacher. Not that Mattingly was bad for Jazz. He actually supported Jazz a lot. During that meeting where Jazz was the center of criticism, Mattingly told the players that they needed to lay off of Jazz for him to play his best so he can feel free. He gets it. He understood how stupid it all was, and he still loves Jazz, even since becoming a Blue Jays bench coach. He recommended to their general manager last year that they trade for him before the Yankees did. When Skip Schumacher came in as manager, he really changed the vibe for the team for the better, and I'm sure it helped that Rojas wasn't there anymore. Skip supported Jazz and things were a lot better, and hey, I mean, they made the playoffs in 2023. You definitely forgot that they did that, but that happened. It's not a conspiracy theory. The Marlins made the playoffs in 2023. Jazz was very high on his newer teammates, and the overall vibe was Skip, and that was what he said before last season, a season that he ended up, of course, getting traded to the Yankees, but not before other teams decided they weren't going to trade for him because of his personality. It was reported during the trade deadline that some teams were out just because of that, but the Yankees had no problem getting him, and it has been a perfect fit for Jazz. He's much happier there. He mentioned how he actually hung out with a lot of the players last year, and it was a shock to him. He wasn't used to that. Like I said, he was used to watching anime in his room with the Marlins, and he mostly didn't have that many relationships with his teammates there, but with the Yankees, it was a total opposite. I mean, he basically just called Garrett Cole the blackest white guy he knows, that he's 1000% invited to the barbecue. And we actually have some footage of these two interacting. Watch.
Gift, it's the N-word pass. Are you 3 uses?
Yeah, a lot different than his relationship with old Marlins teammates, including Miguel Rojas. Is Jazz Chisholm perfect? No. He's made mistakes like not taking accountability for sleeping during a team meeting, and I think he could be a little immature and go toward playing the victim. Like, he did also blame some of the problems he had in Miami on racism, that other players had issues with him because he was black, which doesn't seem to be the case. I think it was about just his personality and the way he was, rather than the color of his skin. And a former teammate of his, Lewis Brinson, another black man, didn't think any of the attacks on Jazz were racially motivated, but did notice that, yeah, Jazz didn't really want to be around anybody that much in the clubhouse because he felt like he didn't fit in. He felt like his personality wasn't welcome because it was looked at as disrespecting the game or whatever BS, which he wasn't. He was simply having fun. So I think it was unnecessary conflict escalating into things that they didn't need to be, like players talking behind Jazz's back, Jazz deciding to be distant from everyone. It was a mess, and obviously just a very toxic culture. So Jazz has made some bad decisions, yes, and lacks of judgment too, but overall I think he's more on the right than Rojas. I mean, for Rojas to cut up Jazz's shoes with scissors and pour another pair with milk, that is unhinged behavior. That's insane. That is not at all what a leader does. When Rojas was in Miami, he was deemed the team captain. That's a joke. You're literally on a Dodger team now that has tons of players showing off their personalities and being themselves. But you can't say anything because you're outnumbered, although apparently you couldn't even say anything in Miami. You had to be fake, and it's so weird considering if you just looked at the way Rojas is, the work he puts in, how dedicated he seems like a good teammate, at least from what you see with him on the Dodgers. You wouldn't think he would do something like that, but he did. He was very against the way Jazz was as a newcomer in the league. The whole thing is a classic case of two worlds colliding, two different personalities and ways of going about things, and there are criticisms that go both ways. I don't think Rojas has much room to talk. He's not that great of a player, never has been, although it's not like Jazz has ever been a top player in the league either. He is better, but it's not like he's some superstar, at least not yet. And yes, the way he is and some of the stuff he's done, not fully taking accountability, I can understand players getting upset. But for the players to do what they did, especially Rojas, to do what he did over nothing that was relevant is beyond psychotic behavior. Say whatever you want about Jazz, but it's obvious the freer he feels, the better he plays. So why should him having artsy shoes and wearing flashy stuff to the ballpark bother you? It's ridiculous. It is funnier though that they both ended up on teams that can't be geologically further from each other. Seems pretty fitting, and they also did meet in the World Series last year, so it's all poetic. Everything's poetic. It all comes back around. Follow me on Instagram if you want. Let me know your thoughts, and thank you for watching.